Welcome to the Talkin Kop. I am joined tonight by my friend Giz and my friend, what did I just say? My friend Gizmo and my friend Kev. And my name is Ashley for all of you that are unfamiliar with the channel. Tonight's topic is going to be an early look to the summer. So we're going to chit chat a little bit about where Liverpool are in terms of the strength of their squad, what they might need, who might leave from Liverpool, and then we're going to get into just some transfer gossip, I guess we'll call it. And we'll talk about why some of these players make sense, maybe why some of them don't make sense, and just go into them in a little bit more detail, because I think some of them might be names that are not necessarily household names. So, Kev, I'm going to come to you first, and I just want to start with the basic idea of where do you think Liverpool desperately need to strengthen in the summer market?
It's a simple one. It's easy. Out wide, up top, pace. We're drastically missing pace, and it's telling every single game that we're playing. Salah couldn't cross the road, let him mind the ball at the minute. He can't go past anyone. And look, he'll go down as a Liverpool legend, no doubt about it. But he's not going to help us for the rest of this season, and he's not going to get faster with the summer break. So, and on the other side, if the rumours are to be believed, that Bayern are heavily linked with a move for Cody Gakpo, then we're going to need at least two wingers, potentially even three. Because the ones that the clubs tend to be looking at and linked with are not going to be able to come in, plug and play 90 minutes, 3 games a week, all the time. So if we're going to be potentially losing two wingers in the summer in Salah and Cody Gakpo, then you might need to be replacing them with three. And who the three are, look, I think it's widely known that one of them is, but we desperately need pace. We have to have an injection of pace up front, especially with the strikers that we have that are going to feed off crosses coming into the box. It's the way Slot wants to play. We've heard him come out and say he wants to play. He wants wingers. So I think that's going to be the key focus going into the summer. Can't see it big anywhere else.
Okay. Gizmo, welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. You were on one of our audio-only shows last week, but you are kind of a longtime family member of the Talkin Kop. Can you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and how you got connected with the Talkin Kop? And then answering the same question, where do you think Liverpool want to strengthen?
I'll start at the very start. I'm one of the Lawsons, which there are many. I think you've met a couple of them.
Yes, I have.
So, yeah, I'm the elder of the so-called fan group. So I'm probably where it all started for these lads. They won't admit to that, but that's the truth. Yes, I would have met Kev a couple of times on the away trips, and I've been a long time listener and reached out to Gav a while ago and asked what I do one. So yeah, this is me second one. I'm visual this time, so I must be improving.
But we've got the sound working and the audio working now, which is it's great. So audio and visual is working fantastic.
I suppose the question is, what do we need? I think I do agree with Kev, but I think defence is a big one. It's mainly through the centre. In midfield, it's kind of it's a double-edged sword. This one, who's leaving, who's staying. So yeah, I would like another midfielder or two, depending on who's going, and then a bit of pace. I think Kev is right. We do need a little bit of pace. Like you're watching a bit of Madrid last night, and you just see the difference that bit of pace makes. It just kills teams, and we don't have it at the moment. We just don't have it. So yeah, I would agree with Kev. Bit of pace, bit more power maybe in the midfield. I think McAllister is starting to wane. So yeah, bit of pace, bit more power, and obviously sort the Konate stuff out once and for all with a bit of luck. Looks like yeah. Probably talk about that in a minute, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll touch on let's start with who might stay, who's currently up in the air. So let's touch on Konate, because I do think that there's a pretty gaping hole if Konate leaves. Yes, we have Jeremy Jacquet coming in. He's quite young. I think he's quite raw. I think he has an immense amount of potential, Kev. But I am not sold on the idea of Jacquet coming in to be a starter next to Virgil van Dijk. I am sold on the idea of him being an understudy to Konate if Konate signs a new contract. Or I'm sold with Jacquet and possibly another senior center back who's probably closer to the 24, 25 age range or older, coming in to partner Virgil van Dijk. Where are we with Konate before we start branching off into selling players?
I don't think we're anywhere. I don't think we know anything more today than we did 3 months ago. They're talking. He hasn't signed for anyone else. He hasn't been strongly linked with anyone else either. It'd be interesting to see what happens up around the next international break. Usually, if he gets picked for France, he goes back to Paris. The French media tend to kick in, and you start seeing rumors going around. And look, I watched PSG a couple of weeks ago, and I was gobsmacked at how bad Marquinhos was, and how much they look like they need someone like Konate, just a defender who defends. You know, someone next to what's his name, Pacho? Yeah, I think it is.
Yes.
Someone next to him who's just a defender. He's from Paris, so there was always loose links with him going back to Paris at some point. That could happen this summer, and I think if it does, it's out of our hands. There's not a lot that we're going to be able to do to stop it. I think there'll be a contract offer to him. It'll be up to him if he wants to sign it or not. If he does go, then it leaves Liverpool with a massive quandary, a massive problem, because you need a plug-and-play player now to allow Leone and Jacquet to come in and develop. You don't want that plug-and-play option to be Joe Gomez. I don't mind. I want Joe Gomez to stay at the club because I want 5 centre-backs at the club. And I don't mind him being the 5th one who can come in and do a job wherever. We need 7 homegrown players anyway. So I don't mind Joe Gomez being that option. But you have to have someone who can come in. And I think you need to be Prem proven. I don't think you're going to get someone. Look, Bastoni would be a brilliant player to come in. But the odds are, you know, unless you're paying silly money to get him out of Italy, I don't think you're getting him out of Italy. The other one, and I was watching him tonight actually, is Maxime Lacroix at Crystal Palace. Really good, quick, comfortable on the ball, left-footed. Plays predominantly in a 3 for Palace, but throughout his career played in a 2, and usually played on the. He can play left or right, and I think at his age now, he's experienced enough to be able to come in and take the next step up. I think he's about 24, 25. He wouldn't cost the earth. And I think that's kind of what you want. You don't want to be spending huge money on a 25, 26-year-old centre-back now when you want Leone and Jacquet to come up together in the next 2 years. You know, so in 2 years' time, you want Jacquet and Leone to be your long-term centre-back partnership. So if you go and blow, say, 80 million on a Bastoni or 65, 70 million on a Van de Ven this summer, you're going to have to recoup that down the line. So they have to balance the books somewhere, because the replacements they have, the money they have to spend elsewhere in the squad this summer is significant. I don't think you can throw everything at A1 star-rated players in every position. You're going to have to make sacrifices somewhere along the line. So I think a Maxime Lacroix coming in at maybe 35, 40, maybe even 45 million wouldn't be the worst move in the world for the club.
So Maxime Lacroix, he just moved to Palace last year, I believe. So he's 25 years old. He's in that age bracket that we're talking about. Someone like that. I don't know if Palace would be willing to sanction a move so quickly after getting him through the door, especially since Guehi has just departed. I don't know where their finances are at. But Giz, I'll ask you a similar question. Let's look along the back line and just talk about, because there's a few players that are sort of in flux. So we have Andy Robertson that may or may not be leaving. I'm leaning more toward leaving. We have Konate, again, waiting on a contract situation with that. And then we also have Connor Bradley, who has been in and out of this team with injury. He is in that homegrown bracket. But there's, you know, a conversation to be had about him. Do you think that he's good enough going forward for Liverpool in the future? Do you think that he's someone that may need to be sold because he's injury prone? And do you see that as an area that maybe we need reinforcement as well?
I think he definitely has the ability, but it's been said on this before. the best ability is availability, and he just seems to break down far too often. I think there's a fantastic player in there. I think he can do it all. He can defend. He can get forward. He puts in decent balls. So yeah, there's definitely a player there and one for the future. But he just seems to break down so much. Just going back to the point about Lacroix, I hate to mention the Gahey deal, but I think he would have been the perfect bridge between the older Van Dijk, the age of Gahey, and then the two young lads coming through, and then with the possibility of Gomez either staying or moving on to someone around that 23, 24 age. So someone a year or two older than them two lads. So yeah, that's why the Gahey deal for me stings really, really badly. I don't really want to go over it as much, but I just couldn't believe they couldn't get that done. It was a real sore point for the summer and for January and the summer, and it's just can't really get me head. I'd love to see Robbo stay. I think we need to retain a couple of leaders. I know he's not going to play as many games as he probably will want, but I do believe there's a place for him in the squad, whether it be in cup games or just to be around the place. We know the benefit we had with Milner. Like, we had his record Premiership appearance there last week. That guy is still given to a squad, and I believe that Robinson is capable of doing that now with a World Cup year. Thankfully, it's this year, so I don't think if it was next year and he wasn't playing that football, he might want to move. But I think we get another year out of him. Kanate, I think, will end up at Paris Saint-Germain. I think the French thing will rear its head, obviously, depending if he goes to the World Cup and has a good World Cup. They will want him back in their ranks, back on home turf, and being the player that I believe he can be when he decides to concentrate. So I wouldn't rule out Real Madrid. They've done what they usually do. We're not mad on him. He's not that good. If he just improved on this, but they're going to do that because they know they can get him for free. So yeah, I don't think he stays. I think he ends up at either Madrid or PSG.
Okay. I'm going to be the odd man out and say that I'm hopeful that Konate stays. Simply because I think that very, very much like the Virgil van Dijk situation, very much like the Mo situation last year, the club had a lot on their plate, and we didn't feel like they were dealing with these contracts, but they actually were in the background. They were doing the same thing with Trent, and yes, Trent decided to go, but there was a really lucrative deal that was put on the table for Trent. And in terms of, being, I don't know if outbid is the right word, but sort of outmoneyed by another club in terms of what we're going to offer you and et cetera. I think Liverpool can be competitive with that. I think it's really up to Konate. And I can't help but notice like a little bit more of sort of an engagement with Konate recently. I look at the celebrations after the 2 goals against Forest. There was the cartwheel that, was for the goal that didn't count. There was the going up into the away fans and really charging in there. I've noticed a shift in tone with him. And I have no idea if that's just a result of sort of the sadness that he faced with his father and him kind of turning a page or what. But I'm going to remain hopeful for that. I'm going to hope that there's a late deal, sort of like Virgil van Dijk, where the club realizes that it's a lot harder to actually bring someone in of Konate's caliber. It's quite expensive to do that as well, and we have a lot of other things on the table that need to be addressed. So I'm just going to stand out. You guys both think PSG, which is great.
I hope not.
PSG, I hope not too. The one thing about PSG is if Enrique leaves, there might be quite a bit of turmoil over there. I don't know who they're going to bring in as their next coach. I don't know who they're interested in, but there might be some shifting. And I guess you could say that.
You think Enrique leaves?
I think so. I mean, he's come out and pretty much said that's what he wants to do, that he's kind of finished with the project and he wants a new challenge. It hasn't been made, formal, as in like he's formally declared that he's going to depart, but that's the rumor at least. And I'm certainly interested in him as a coach.
We swap Arnie for
yes. No, I mean, I don't want to toss Arnie out, but I am very interested in Enrique. I think he is a fantastic coach.
If he doesn't come to us, I hope to fuck he doesn't go to City.
I think he'll go to City if he doesn't come to us.
No, I think that Maresca thing is it's a done deal, in my opinion.
I feel like that would be such a mad decision. That'd be so mad. But it makes it makes sense. He's connected.
Yeah, well, sure, listen, they're capable of doing anything as we've seen and heard. But yeah, I agree with you, Kev. I hope he doesn't go there. I really don't.
Well, Emmett is smushing my joy here, saying there's talk of him signing a new deal at PSG. So that could just be thrown all out the window.
Yeah.
Kev, let's talk about sort of the rest of the team. So Giz thinks that Robbo stays. You can have your say on Robertson. You can have your say on Bradley. But let's start moving through the rest of the team as well.
Yeah.
Who do you think maybe would be an unpopular or unexpected departure for Liverpool? Who do you think they might sell to try to raise funds?
If you want to sell players to raise funds, you're selling Dominic Szoboszlai. If he doesn't sign it, if he's offered a contract with 2 years left in his deal and he doesn't sign, then you're seriously looking at offers, because you cannot allow a 120, 150 million pound player to walk out the door in 2 years' time for nothing. If we do, we haven't learned our lesson again. I think there has to be a line in the sand drawn with players as well who keep thinking they can run their contracts down all the time and go for free.
They probably do because they do, Kev.
I know they can. I know they can.
I'm not worth. The only thing a contract does is protect the.
It protects the club for a limited time.
Yeah.
But the scary thing is for me. Look, don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. I want Dominic Szoboszlai to stay. I think he's potentially one of the best midfielders on the planet. All right. But at the same time, if you're offering him top level money and he's not signing, and he's got 2 years left on his contract, that's the last time the club has any real power. Because once it gets under 2 years, you start getting twitchy, because once it gets to 12 months, you're screwed. He's going for nothing. So if there's a potential deal out there to be had with Real Madrid that you can significantly cash in and do a Coutinho, where you can make a big sale, and then you go out and invest in 3 or 4 potential world stars, it's one the club are going to have to look at. It's one Richard Hughes is going to have to look at. And it's one I am so thankful that I have absolutely no influence or input into whatsoever, because I think you're in the devil in deep blue sea with this one.
I'd love to see a Hippie at Gerrard scenario where
me too,
where Van Dijk gives the captaincy or suggests that Dominic Szoboszlai is a natural successor, and he takes the captaincy next year with a big deal to go with it. I think that's something that I think that's something that he'd be interested in. I think he is a legacy player. He's interested in legacy, but legacy costs, whether we like it or not. Mm-hmm. So you got to pay him the big money, but I do believe something like that would appeal to him.
Yeah. The other side of the midfield is McAllister. He's coming to that age now where he's probably got one big deal left before he starts looking at North America and Saudi Arabia. So if it's a case that Atletico Madrid or someone of that ilk come now, I don't think Real Madrid would. I don't think he suits Real Madrid. Not with the way they play, not with the midfielders they currently have. It's like he's not better than what they have. You know, he's as good as, but he's not better. So if you're looking at someone like Atletico Madrid, they could come into some money this summer. So the potential could be for him to go there. Then the other option you're looking at as a potential out, we saw it in the January window, is Curtis Jones. Wasn't short of offers in January with Spurs, Inter Milan. A couple of other Italian clubs will probably look at him as well. But then that brings up a big problem for us. We're already really thin on the amount of homegrown players that we actually have at the club. And for every player that's over 20, homegrown player that's over 21 that you don't have, it's one less over 21 non-homegrown player that you can register. So to get that balance right, if they turn around and start looking at selling a Curtis Jones, you're going to have to bring in homegrown players. That in itself is very expensive.
Curtis is giving me John Joe Shelby vibes.
Very much so.
He can go and be a big player somewhere else if he's not getting the minutes. And I think he can, but I think he can be a big player for us as well. But
So do I.
I think the decision is, I think it's his decision, to be honest. He's going to decide. I don't think the club will be deciding. I think he'll decide.
Yeah, well, the thing with Jones is, I mean, you just talked about Szoboszlai being down to 2 years. Jones is down to 1 year. So Jones's contract only goes until June 2027. So, part of this might just be the dance that agents and club do to try to get that final boost before that contract. I mean, Curtis Jones has come out and said numerous times that he wants to captain Liverpool Football Club. He would love to spend the rest of his career here. But you're also in a situation where he also wants to be a starter. He's getting to that age where, he can't really justify being just a bit part player. So I can understand him thinking, hey, I can go to Italy and I can be like Scott McTominay. And he's better than Scott McTominay, in my opinion. And I think that if he goes there, I think he'd be fantastic. But you never know. I mean, the grass is not always what? What are you laughing at?
Veranda cheese.
He's a volunteer, a willing volunteer, Veranda Cheese. We did not kidnap him or force him to do this.
I know Veranda Cheese a long time.
Welcome member here.
I do.
It's in the DNA.
Yeah. Well, we needed a Lawson. Everyone was asking for a Shoddy, and we found another Lawson. So here we are.
Oh, he's home, but he's probably busy flipping points to pig.
Well, he has other more important life things going on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we talked about the midfield there. We talked about, Kev, you pulled no punches with Szoboszlai. I hope to God he stays.
Why?
McAllister, I think I can make an argument for him going. If you look at his numbers, they're declining pretty rapidly this year, whether it's duels and the amount of running that he's doing in the midfield, just general sort of off the ball work has gone down. He just doesn't look fit, I guess, compared to where he was.
The way we're playing, to be honest, I think it was mentioned he is trying to cover an awful lot of ground. Gravenberch is not setting the world on fire. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe how actually poor he is in possession.
It's
actually
interesting.
Pointed that out to me last week, and I was like, when I looked at it, he is in possession at the moment. Because I think there's a fantastic footballer in there, but I think the oil is starting to run low on that engine. He seems to be struggling to get around the pitch.
Yeah, it's interesting how Gravenberch has kind of gotten off scot-free in our midfield, despite the fact that a lot of times I forget he's even playing. But I guess I'll park the Gravenberch chat for now because I want to just touch on our forwards and then I want to talk about the players that we're linked to. So, I guess 3 if you consider Chiesa. I think Chiesa is going to go. I think that's probably a no-brainer for both parties. But let's talk about our wingers. We've got Cody Gakpo. Kev, you mentioned earlier in the show that there was a link to Bayern Munich. If Bayern Munich is willing to pay those wages, I would engage that chat. The other player is Mo Salah. And there's no kind of getting away from the fact that there is an elephant in the room with regards to Mo Salah. One thing to consider is that Saudi Arabia is planning on a big spend this summer to kind of reinvigorate interest in that region, in sport in that region, especially going into the World Cup that's going to be hosted there. Do you think Mo Salah goes? Do you think Cody Gakpo goes, Kev?
Well, by all accounts, reading today, Salah said he's quite happy to see out the rest of his time at Liverpool.
Okay.
I don't think Liverpool are going to be too happy to hear that. I think Rich Hughes would love to get him out the gap as soon as possible. And Mo Salah this season is definitely a case. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have done that then. And it was an impossible situation because you look at the numbers he put up last season, and you just give him the money, wouldn't you? You just give it to him.
I had to be done, Kev. It was a gamble, but I had to be done. I had to be.
It was. But the drop-off this season, nobody saw coming. Anyone who says they did is a fucking liar. So at the end of the day, the drop-off is immense. and it doesn't look like there's any sign of a recovery coming in it. So you hope that he goes in the summer. You hope we can recoup a decent fee because we're dying for pace. You saw the difference Rio made when he came on and just took players on. Even on the right-hand side, when he switched over to the right-hand side as far as just putting balls into the box, going past the fullback, it gets everyone else's energy up. It gets the fans up. It's like, and he's what, 17. You hope that this year will stand to Rio. The fact that he's been in and around it for a year, his body will have physically developed a bit more, and he'll be able to be used a bit more. But he'll be trusted a bit more to be able to start games, play an hour, come on, come back off. Yeah, Brian, you're full of shit, pal. In fairness, you shovel it and you milk it and you fucking sell it. So I'd say a word to Brian about it, but I know in fairness, Brian probably did see it coming because he's just a Kilkenny York, so they're strange fuckers down there. But no, I think Mo's hopefully going to go. The Gakpo one is a weird one because this season aside, he's been really good for us. He was really good last season and really good when he came in. Again, I think like McAllister, this system doesn't suit him. He's not a wide winger. He never was. He was an attacking midfielder who comes inside. You know, he's a second striker. He doesn't play central, but he doesn't play on the touchline either. You watch him for the Dutch, and they play that like 3-4-2-1. He's one of the 2 10s behind the striker. You know, and he's really effective in that role. But it's horses for courses. He doesn't suit what we're trying to do this season. So and it's telling. It's telling his performances. It's telling in the numbers, and it's got to be soul destroying for him because he knows what he can do, and we've seen what he can do, and he's just not turning up this season. He's been given a contract. He's on good money. The problem is being on good money and a longer deal now kind of hamstrings us when it falls off a cliff for him because the offers that we could have got if he was having a 15 goal plus season as opposed to one where he's going to have less than 10. They're 2 different numbers. It's like, I think he could go to Germany and really do bits in Germany because of the way the style of the league and everything that goes with that. If he went to Bayern, I'm sure he'd fly. I'm sure he'd do brilliantly at Bayern. And it's a case of we are going to need a sale from him and Salah to be able to help fund the 2 or 3 wingers we're going to need to bring in. And probably need to bring in a midfielder and a defender. You know, we can't just do everything and not sell anybody because you're still talking about Endo's likely to go, Chiesa's likely to go. You know, so there's going to be potentially 4 or 5 players coming in this summer on top of everything else. So, even if you do that, even if you bring in 5, you're probably not increasing the number of players in the squad. But what you're hoping to do is increase the number of players that the manager is willing to trust and use and start. Whereas at the minute, he's probably got a core of about 14 players, 15 players, outfield players that he'll start on a regular basis.
It's about 14 right now. Yeah.
That needs to be 17 or 18. You know, if that's 17 or 18, that allows you so much more room to be able to rest players and rotate and manage players' fitness properly, especially on the back of a long World Cup. And, you know, going into qualifying campaigns and what have you as well. And then you're going to have Europe and everything else that brings as well. So next season is going to be a war of attrition.
Go ahead, Gizmo.
I think a good World Cup takes Gakpo out of teams. It takes Gakpo out of Liverpool. I think you could see him at Bayern because obviously the guy's gone there. Let's be honest, he's been fantastic for them. So they'll probably see this and we can do this again. They could link the back together. I know they predominantly void for the same position, but I do believe they could play together with Mr. Kane up top there. Yeah, so I think if he has a good World Cup, I think he goes.
Okay, so we're all Team Germany in the World Cup, is what you're saying. Okay, like I think everyone's in a rough agreement here. I think that in the back line, it's either Konate stays or it's a center back comes in. I think there needs to be a discussion around a left back because I think Andy Robertson might be out the door. I don't know. I agree with Gizmo. I think that he can play a role as a senior figure, but I'm just not 100% sure if Liverpool is going to do that deal. Moving forward through the midfield, I do think that we need probably someone to help out either in the 6 or someone to help out in sort of more of a box-to-box midfield role to help out if McAllister goes. Moving forward, I think we all agree here that we need wingers. So whether or not Gakpo, Mo, both, or none go, we still need at least one winger, minimum, in my opinion. So let's go through some of the names that you guys have found, if you have them. And if you don't have them, I have a few names that have been kind of reputably linked to Liverpool. Kev, I'll let you go first. Let's keep like the exciting ones for the very end. Let's talk about sort of the fringe ones first, and then we'll talk about the ones that we think would be the best fit for Liverpool at the end.
Okay. There's one midfielder that was linked with us during the January transfer window, and it perked my ears up because I thought didn't see that one coming.
Okay.
It was Kees Schmidt.
Yes. AZ Alkmaar, 18 years old.
18 years old. This kid is as close to Pedri as you're likely to see. He is technically brilliant. He's got vision, touch, pass, can beat a player, defend. He's a little terrier as well in midfield. If McAllister goes, he'd be right up that list.
That's what he looks like to me as a McAllister replacement.
Yeah, and also with the way what could happen. See, the thing is, I think you have to get Szoboszlai into a double 6 to be able to, I think, unlock him and get the best out of him. You put Szoboszlai and Gravenberch as your double 6 with Wirtz ahead of them. That gives you physicality, energy, legs, passing ability, composure on the ball, players that can move the ball and bring the ball, advance the ball. It allows someone like Kees Smith to come in, develop as a player, and you can use him. You don't have to. He's not a plug and play player for the Premier League. He's going to need time, 6 months. He might need a year, but he looks like he's going to be an absolute superstar. Any reports you read about him, when you hear ex-Dutch players talking about him, rave about him on the ball. And the Spanish, there's a reason why Real Madrid are heavily linked with him. Madrid will pay a fee for players who are 24 and under, because they've got a big resale value on the flip side of it. That's why they did it with Camavinga. It's why they did it with Tchouaméni, among others. With Huijsen, they'll pay a fee for these players. What they won't do is pay big fees for players who are 25 and older, because they've been burnt too many times. So I can see Madrid driving up the price for someone like Schmidt, which might pull us out of it.
Okay.
But if a deal could be done for him, I think that's one that Liverpool will definitely look at.
Okay. I gave you the wrong age. He's 20 years old now. He just turned 20 in January.
Yeah.
So he's from the Netherlands. He's Dutch, to kind of go along with our giant Dutch army of players. He came from sort of a 5-a-side background. So there's actually a great viral video of him scoring a 5-a-side goal where he kind of hits it off one of the sideboards and it goes into the goal. But you can see it in his game that he has this very close control. He's been compared to a young Kevin De Bruyne. He looks a little bit like De Bruyne as well because he's kind of ginger. He can play DM, central midfield, as well as attacking midfield. I see him as sort of a McAllister player. He has 90% chance created in the Dutch league, 91% for shot attempts, and he's quite high up on the goals as well, and touches. He's not great in the air, and he's not awesome for defensive contributions. So I'm not sure if him sitting a little bit deeper would work. I think he's definitely more of an attacking midfield profile. Giz, have you heard at all of this kid from AZ Alkmaar? It would be an area that Arne Slot would know well. Dutch league. He's kind of seen that progression. Any idea about this kid at all? Okay,
Can't
that's
say
cool.
I have.
Do you want to throw out a player that you have seen linked to Liverpool? Well, again, let's save like sort of the big flashy names for the end. Is there anyone that you've seen linked to Liverpool that you want to give a shout out and that you know anything about? And if not, I can give you a suggestion.
Mine are probably a little bit. They're a bit more obvious. I'd love Barcola. He is in that youth bracket, and I would love to see Barella. I think he looks like McAllister looked like when he first came. All action, can pick a pass, can set the tempo of a game. The younger players now, I find it hard to watch football these days, so I wouldn't be watching AZ Alkmaar and that type of stuff, struggling with football at the moment. So I tend to Liverpool at the moment.
Okay, let's talk about Barcola a little bit there, since you brought him up. Where do you think he would fit? Do you think he would be sort of just an across the front line, all-around player? Do you think that you see him on the left? Where do you think he fits ideally in the Liverpool side?
I think he can play anywhere across the front. I believe if you had a fit Isaac, Ekitike and Barcola, that would be a fantastic front three. I actually don't believe that Ekitike wants to be in there. I think he has the ability and the football brain to kind of float around. Obviously, Isaac is that off the shoulder player. So I do believe that between Isaac, Barcola and Ekitike, I think that could be sensational actually.
Do you know by any chance, maybe Kev, you might know this, do you know if Ekitike was there with Barcola at PSG, or did he leave before?
I don't know if they would have. I don't know if they would have crossed paths for PSG. They definitely would have for France.
Yes, that's true.
They would have been in similar French squads. The thing with Hugo can play off the left. We know that you can play. You can link up with the striker as well, because you saw when he was at Frankfurt, him and Marmouche formed a great partnership as a pair. So I wouldn't rule that out. Depending on the kind of summer that we do have, that at times next season, depending on the opposition, you could see a front two with a Florian Wirtz behind them. Ekitike can drift wide and arrive into the box, depending on the quality of players that are going to be around him. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Hugo becomes your left-sided attacker. Your left-sided forward, more or less. Not a winger, but a left-sided forward. But Bradley Barcola, getting him out of PSG is gonna be some feat. They don't mind selling players, but they sell players on their terms, especially ones that are tied down to contracts. Now, I don't know what his contract situation is like, but I'd imagine it would take savage money to get him out of there. I can't remember the last time PSG sold a player other than Mbappe that they didn't want to sell. And, usually they sell players into Germany with the idea for them to go to Germany to develop, and then they bring them back. So they kind of look at it.
They want that core of French now, don't they? And that's why I believe they'll go after Konate.
Yeah, they tried the. I think they went down the Messi, Neymar, Ibrahimovic route to grow the brand. To grow the PSG brand globally. They've done that now. PSG is one of the biggest clubs in the world globally at any metric, when it comes to money income, when it comes to sales, not transfer sales, but I mean shirt sales, all that kind of money that they can get in through other means. They've done on the back of the Messi and Neymar and Mbappe stuff. Now they're going more along the lines of
City means.
Yeah,
we call them City.
Yeah, they've done that bit. Now they're going along the lines of the football project, and once they finally decided to settle on a football project, they won the Champions League. So they're probably going to stick to that. So Bradley Barcola, I find it hard to believe. I find it very difficult to see him getting out of it. I think you're talking anywhere upwards of 100 million to get him out of there.
So he's kind of in the same boat as a Szoboszlai. He's coming down to the final 2 years of his deal. So he's contracted until 2028. He has been offered a new deal, but he hasn't signed it. So he's quote unquote evaluating his options, but he has not signed a new deal. But they want to tie him down. So he's definitely one to watch. So he's one of the bigger names. Let's take it back. I'm going to throw out a name that might be lesser known, which is Bouadi, who is a midfielder playing for Lille. So he is young. He is currently 18 years old. He was born in 2007, which makes me feel ancient. But
welcome to our life, Chris.
But he plays primarily as a DM. He plays as a DM for Lille in both a double pivot, and he can play as a single pivot. He starts alongside Andre in that double pivot for Lille. He's given the freedom to drift quite a bit. We actually saw him play at Anfield last year. He came on as a substitute in that Lille game that we faced them in. He didn't really stand out particularly, but he was also 17 years old at the time. So in possession, Lille, interestingly, drift into a back three when they're in possession, which may or may not be something that we are planning on doing in the future. But he kind of acts as a connector role between the defense and the wingers. So he kind of sits in and around that 6th place, and he has very, very good ball control. He's very good in tight spaces, receiving and also exiting, very high technical ability. And he just sort of covers for defense when players are out of position. Like I said, he can play as a lone 6 or as a double 6. He's aggressive. He's patient. He has a lot of defensive maturity. Pete, I don't want to get into it. I'm going to get in trouble here. I'm not taking the bait. Other things about him, has good dueling capabilities. He has really long legs, so he's kind of got that go-go gadget thing going for him. He's just a little bit taller than 6'6". He's 6'1", so he's tall, but he's not great as an aerial dueler. I think he has less than 50% aerial duel, so around 45%. But he is looked at largely as sort of the next big defensive 6. If you want sort of a defensive 6 prior to them making it onto the big stage, so sort of the Wharton before he becomes Wharton, this would be your guy. Do either of you know anything about him? Do you want to talk about him?
The only thing I know about him is he's very like Schmidt. He's technically really good on the ball, good passer. Combative, but again, see, the thing is, when you start looking at players who are between 18 and 21, they don't have to be registered in your 17 non-homegrown players.
He has also played right back. There's someone in the chat saying that he's listed as a right back option. He has also played right back.
He's also played for France at every level right the way through. I think he's got 8 under-21 caps for France already, at 18.
Mm-hmm.
And Lille is a good breeding ground for young French players. And I think Richard Hughes needs to start getting smart about how Liverpool approach transfer business. If he wants to be the guy, kind of like he was at Bournemouth, where you get them before they become somebody, it's a much more difficult thing to do at a club like Liverpool, where you're expected to be challenging for honours, as opposed to doing it at Bournemouth. But I think with the way the transfer fees are exploding, you're talking like £100 million transfer fees as if they're commonplace nowadays. And it's crazy that you're seeing what are very good players, and that's all they are, the likes of Adam Morton, very good player, being touted around at £100 million.
I mean, look what we paid for Jacquet. He has, less than a year of experience at senior level. I mean, this kid, Bouhaddi, is roughly, his transfer value is around 47 million, which, again, 18 years old. He moved to Lille for 23 million in 2024, November 2024. Again, it's big money. But look, if that's sort of the bargain option for 6, Gizmo, I'm going to give you the Harrods option for our 6, which is Wharton. What do you think about Wharton as an option for Liverpool?
I think he's fantastic. I think he's a fantastic player. He never seems to get phased. He looks like he's older than his years. He looks like he's been playing Premiership football for 10 years. I think he's really, really good. Really good. And I think with good players, there's another level or two to go with him.
Do you think he could play as a double 6, or do you think that Gravenberch would get moved a little bit further forward?
I think they could both do it. He seems capable. You've seen him dropping in between centre halves. He seems to have it all. And he'd be the dream scenario. And I just seen that Frankie De Jong is out of contract this summer. So
I mean, we could just have the entire Netherlands team. That is an option.
Yeah,
We're not far off. I mean,
big fairs will have a
save
party
Ronald Koeman.
But yeah, no, I think.
So we've got Gizmo sort of on the old satellite dish in the backyard. So we're trying to get him back.
On his Wi-Fi. I think
You're
with
good.
Rodri, I think with Rodri probably going out the door. City are the outlier here. City will just decide, you know what he'll do for us, and that'll be that. Unfortunately for the rest of us. So that's.
They're also linked to Elliot Anderson, though. So, you know, those two players that I imagine are both on the move. One of them may go to City, but the other one will be available.
Who would you prefer?
You know, if you look at Arsenal, they're locked down in that situation.
Who would you prefer from the two?
Say it again.
Who would you prefer from the two?
Personally, Wharton.
Me too.
I like Elliot Anderson, but I think that in terms of defensively, I think Wharton has more of a defensive mindset, and I think that that's what we're missing more than anything in our midfield is that true defensive mindedness. And I like the way that he reminds me a little bit of Zubamendi, which is something that Slot was looking for. He's, you know, looking for that guy that can kind of receive the ball with his back to goal and then progress it forward. And I think that we don't have that right now. I know that Gravenberch can do it, but like you were saying earlier, this hasn't been Gravenberch's strongest season. And I think he does need someone to rotate with or sit with in a double six. Kev, do you agree with that, or would you rather have Anderson?
My only worry with Wharton is he's got a severe lack of pace.
Okay.
His delivery from a ball is unbelievable. His passing range is right up there with anyone that you'll see. Plus, he's unusual in the fact that he's left-footed in that position as well. He's got a great. He set one up tonight. The first goal for Palace. I don't know what the final score was. It was 1-0 going in at halftime, and he put in a ball. There was a mirror of what Declan Rice does from wide free kicks. He just put this delivery in, and it was just flat with pace. All the Croix had to do was just get ahead on it. You know, all of the pace was on the ball. All he had to do was aim it in the right place. His passing range is unbelievable. I think the way the Palace are playing at the minute with that three centre-backs, they're playing a two-man midfield, and they're both advancing, but they're not getting ahead of the ball. When I watched them tonight and they were being turned over in the middle of the park and they were being broken on, he didn't have the legs to catch up to get back. And that was in the first half of a game. That would be my only worry. When you compare Dominic Szoboszlai and Gravenberch, their ability to get back, I think they're quicker over the ground than what Wharton is. But and for me, if Palace are going to be commanding anywhere upwards of £80 million for this kid, you want to be sure. You know, you want to be sure that this is going to be the one. And I think that what he can do, Elliot Anderson doesn't have. I think Elliot Anderson has a great engine. I think he gets up and down the pitch. I think Wharton is a better passer of a ball, and I think he's more defensively minded. But Elliot Anderson is a very good box-to-box midfielder. But I wouldn't be selling Alexis McAllister to bring him in.
Can I throw out a completely rogue concept that just popped into my head, and it might just be because I'm tired? Is there a world where, if Konate leaves Gizmo, that Liverpool decide to stick with Leone, Jeremy Jacquet, and Gomez, but lean on Gravenberch as a center back option, and then bring in Wharton? I don't want to exist in this world. And like I said, it might just be because I'm tired. But is there a world where Liverpool... I mean, he's played there at center back. I actually think he looks quite good at center back. But that's, a one-off thing. I can't
remember who we played against that game. Yeah, he looked decent. And he looked like... You know, when a midfielder plays centre back, he gets that head up. And he's not just looking for a pass out. He's looking to break lines. He's looking to get teams turned. I think that is... I'm hoping it's not a possibility. I really am.
I hope not too.
I actually think Gravenberch is suffering now because I think he's played too much football. That move he had where he'd take the ball on the half turn and just drive at it. I think he
doesn't do that much now.
Yeah, he's definitely looked a bit flat.
Doesn't have many of them left and can't do whatever. again, I just believe that and maybe do that all and give him that break that he probably needs. And that break might be playing centre half sometimes, just the lesser teams, and just keep it simple. He still plays, but he's not doing that. He's not doing all that running that we believe we will see next year, because I believe we will be a different side next year with the pace of Frimpong and Kerkez on the left.
Well, you mentioned Frimpong and Kerkez. Before we get to our attacking winger options, which is what I'm going to finish with, I want to touch on a couple of fullback / left back / right backs that we've been linked to. So there's two names that have been sort of realistically linked, and then there's a third name that was linked over the winter. So over the winter in January, you had Roland Salai from Galatasaray. Now, he is a very different profile from the other two. I think that he was just looked at sort of as a emergency option if Frimpong was out long term, especially if Robertson was to leave. He is 28 years old. He's 5'11". He's a Hungarian player, so he does kind of fit that new Hungarian stronghold of players that we've been curating. His father came out the other day, and he said that there were links between Liverpool and Salai. Didn't really go into any sort of specific detail about, whether the links were in January or whether the links were for the summer. But he did say that, his son had been contacted by Liverpool. I'm going to park him because I don't think he fits our model. I think that he's a little bit too old. I think he would have made sense for an emergency signing in the winter, but that's about it. So I'm going to park him. He can also weirdly play striker and left wing, so he's sort of like a weird hybrid, but I'm going to park him. The two names that I think are realistic for us, one is Nathaniel Brown. He is a left back. He's 22 years old. He's from Frankfurt. He's German. He is on City's radar. He's also on Arsenal's radar. He's also on Real Madrid's radar. You're looking around 60 million euros for him. He was signed for 3 million euros. So Frankfurt, as we know how to make a profit on a player. But he's been described as the German Ashley Cole. He's great at overlapping. He's a very high-functioning wingback. He has great football intelligence. He has lots of pace, lots of agility. He chose Germany over the United States to represent internationally, even though he had the opportunity. So he played in the U21 Euros in Germany. He's known for his defensive IQ, his positional awareness, very high recoveries per game, not great aerially, around 45%. And then the other one is Jivario Reed from Feyenoord. So he is 19 years old. He's 5'9", so not great on the Dylan scale of height. But he is a right back, so opposite side. You would be looking at him, I guess, if you decided that a Frimpong or a Bradley were too injury prone, or maybe if Bradley got moved on. He's, right around 88th percentile for goals. So he's a very aggressive sort of fullback wingback. His transfer value would be probably around 32-ish. So again, he'd be someone that you would bring in maybe if one of those right backs didn't make the cut or wasn't ready. I don't know how severe Bradley's injury truly is, because there is sort of rumors that he might not be back for the World Cup. He might not be back for the start of next season. We really don't know. Let's just talk broadly. Kev, do you think that we need a right back or a left back?
Left back, and Brown won't move for anywhere near 65 million.
Okay. How much do you think he moves for, and where do you think he goes?
40 to 45 million. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he ends up in Man City.
Okay.
I'd just from what I've seen of him today, just the dreaded YouTube. But forget about when you park his crosses and stuff like that, because his crosses are good, and every clip is going to show you the assists that they get. When you watch him, how he defends, his body shape when he defends, he's a really good player. And a signing like him, you've locked off your left-hand side of you basically locked off both your fullback positions for the next 5 to 8 years. You have two young fullbacks on the right, two young fullbacks on the left, and you've done that build for the foreseeable. You ain't gonna have to go and look at it again. And you've seen this season how at the start of the season how much Slot liked making the first substitutions would be his fullbacks. So depending on the type of forward you bring in, it wouldn't surprise me if he does go for a left back to box that position off. And yeah, I wouldn't mind it being him, but there are others out there as well. You know, we'll do a deeper dive later when it gets closer to the summer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the links start coming through. But yeah, I think they'll look to invest in another left back. Whether it's going to be this guy or not, I don't know. But he does look good.
Okay. Gizmo, is there anyone defensively that you want to shout out before we move on to forwards? Like a Schlotterbeck or even a right back or a left back. Is there someone maybe in the Premier League that you'd want to pick up?
Robinson, Fulham. I think he's a good player.
He's a good player. How old is Robinson? I forget. I think
he's
he's in his
29.
late 20s. Yeah,
he's
late
29.
20s. He'd be an interesting shout in terms of sort of that elder statesman.
You get 3 years out of him.
Yeah.
You get 2-3 years, 2-3 summers out of him. Or yeah, you get a couple of 2 or 3 years out of him and he'd be fine, you know. But it depends. I mean, the thing is fullbacks rarely don't go for what you call huge money, you know, and for what you want to do. I mean, look, odds are Kirkes looks like he's flying. You know, he looks like he's improving week on week, and you'd hope that next season he'll kick on again. So maybe it's just a case that you look at someone like Robinson to come in and back him up.
He's 28.
Yeah, so I mean, he'd be 29 next season. He'll be 29, 30, 31. You know, so if you get 3 years out of him, he's still got plenty of football in him. You know, and he's done nothing wrong at Fulham. He's done okay. But I look at Aït-Nouri at Man City, and he looks like a fish out of water. When I watched him at Wolves, I thought he was really, really good. You know, so, but yeah, again, he would be Prem proven. The other one at right back, someone mentioned him earlier in the chat, the kiddie at Brentford. You know, the guy with the really long throw.
Coyote. Yeah.
Forget the long throw for a second. He's actually a really good fullback.
I put him in my sort of like signings team of the season at the beginning of the year. And like, I feel very vindicated in that decision because he like, I thought it was like a left field shout, but the throw in is fucking amazing. But he's also just very aggressive, can get up and down the field really well. I think that he doesn't look out of place whatsoever. And Brentford have that ability to use their data to find those players where it's, you know, I don't think anyone was looking at him. I don't think he was linked to anyone else. I certainly don't think he was linked to anyone else in the Premier League. And I don't know how much they paid for him off the top of my head, but he looks a Premier League player. He does. Yeah. And I would love him because I do think, especially going forward, if those long throws are going to become more of a thing, I hope they don't because it kind of sucks. I hate this like shit ball that we're going in the direction of, but very good shout. Okay. We're right past the hour mark.
Speaking
here,
of
let's
data,
finish the show with our
Hughes needs a big summer.
Okay, let's talk about that because, you know, going into a big summer includes buying big wingers, buying big forwards. So what does that mean to you, Gizmo? Like, what does a good summer mean to you?
Well, I think some of the obvious deals or some of the more obvious players that I'd like to see, we would want them done. But I'd like to pull a few diamonds out of the rough like he did at Bournemouth, where he made his name, why we went and got him, basically. I'd like him to pull a few younger players and players that other teams will be aware of, but those players that he can get over the line, that he has that history with from the scout network back in the day. But yeah, I think it's a big summer for him. I think the obvious deals will always happen if you pay enough money. It's the ones that aren't so obvious and the ones that are under the radar. That's where he'll earn his real wages this summer, I believe.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think all of us still have in our heads like where are we shopping? Are we shopping at are we shopping on High Street or are we shopping at Harrods? because we were shopping at Harrods last summer, and I don't know where we're shopping now. So some of these players, like, you know, Buati or Keith Smith, are young and they're up and coming and they can be then molded. And there might be a place for some of those signings. But let's talk about Yan Diomande, because I want to finish with him. I think he's very exciting. The more that I look at him, the more that I think that maybe he is worth the money and maybe he is the direction that we need to go. So just going through stats really quickly. He is from RB Leipzig.
He wanted to play for Liverpool.
Well, yeah, roughly, he wanted to play for Liverpool. I think.
Then it turned out his dad is a fan, so he put a bit of cold water on that.
That's what I was gonna say. So he came out as sort of, oh, I want to play for Liverpool, but then he kind of clarified, oh, it's my dad's club. We're just gonna say that he wants to play for Liverpool and stick with that. So he's 19 years old. He comes from RB Leipzig. He's known for his dribbles, his carries. He's only second to Lamine Yamal in terms of successful dribbles and carries. So Lamine Yamal is at 33. He's at 29. It's not an ocean apart there. He's tactically flexible. He can play on the left wing as well as the right wing. He can also play sort of as a deeper lying, false nine. I've seen him play there as well. He's comfortable sort of wherever you put him on the pitch. But he is an elite dribbler. He's 5'10", so he's not really tall. Doesn't have a great aerial rate, so that would be kind of his weakness. His ground duel rate is pretty good. He's very, very balanced, very hard to get the ball off of him. He has a really interesting story, and I just kind of want to read it really quickly. So a couple of years ago, he was playing in the United States. He came over to the United States to play football here. And he was playing for DMC Academy, which was a high school team in Florida. And then he was playing semi-pro for the UPSL. The team was called the Frenzy in Florida. So at 16 years old, he led them to their national title. So at 16 years old, he, was also going to high school, playing in a high school team. But in the sort of semi-pro league, he led them to a national title. He was awarded the Golden Boot. At 16 years old, he won $1,000 for that achievement, and then he was immediately scouted by La Liga's Legans. So in 2024, he moved to Spain from the United States from a high school team. He was meant to sign for their reserve team. He lived in their reserve team, played with their reserve team for 2 months before they said, nope, you're way too good for our reserve team. They pulled him out, and they decided to put him on debut at Real Madrid. And he played versus Real Madrid for his debut. And then he went on a few weeks later to make his starting debut against Barcelona. So in the space of less than 2 years, he went from playing as a high school student in Florida to a starter against Barcelona. And then he played against Real Madrid. So after he moved there, he was scouted by RB Leipzig in July 2025. For 1.5 million euro. So that's what they signed him for at the beginning of last year. And their price tag is going to be roughly 80 to 100 million euro this summer. Now, all of that being said, Kev, what do you think about Yan Diomande?
If you'd have asked me this 6 months ago, I'd have said there's no way in hell Liverpool will look at him. He hasn't played enough football. And then we went and signed Jeremy Jacquet for 60 million. Yep. Who's played less. Everything about this kid screams Premier League. He's 6 foot.
Sadio Mane.
Yeah, he's Sadio Mane with broader shoulders, taller, and he can go both ways. He can go left, he can go right. He's so hard to get off the ball.
I have to go.
When you watch him, when you watch
Sadio Mane is enough for me.
Oh,
so he's large. The more recent comparison that a lot of people have been saying is that he is very similar to a Doku or Semenyo, in that he can play on either side. He's very comfortable on either side. He is predominantly right-footed, but he looks really comfortable playing both sides, and he plays both sides equally. So I think probably a Semenyo comparison isn't far off, but more forward. Yeah, more physical and more forward-footed
Yeah.
Front-footed, excuse me.
No, he's going to move this summer, and he's going to move for big money wherever he goes. He's got the potential to be an absolute superstar. The only thing, and he's got goals and assists this season. He's just so hard to knock off the ball at his age. You know, it's like he's got scary potential. He really has. I mean, I've seen there someone talking about Yildiz in the chat. The difference between Yildiz and this kid is pace. Yildiz is very much a technical footballer, and I think if we didn't sign Florian Wirtz, then Yildiz would be on the radar for sure. You know, but you can't. I don't think you can accommodate two players in a front four without express pace. Diomande has express pace, and the other one I'd go for is Antonio Nusa, Norwegian, but he just looks the business. He plays predominantly off the left, and if Cody Gakpo goes, I'd be bringing him in as well, because again, loves to take players on, loves to go past players, a really high success rate with his dribbles, same as Diomande. Both of them. It's not a case of they attempt all these dribbles. They succeed more often than not. And if you've got forwards who can make runs off those wingers, there's goals galore to be had because they contribute goals as well. But if you've got striker in Alexander Isak who needs service, who feeds on service, he's not going to be the guy to make the goals himself. He needs service. You need wingers to give him that service. And to do that, you have to be able to take on players. And these are two of the best that you'll see at taking on players, plus the fact that they're both under 21. They don't have to be registered straight away, which means it gives you freedom to be able to rebuild other parts of your squad in other ways. That's why I think if you're looking at bringing in players of this age, you're going to need at least 3 to come in. And the third one, you could look at, you know, down the price range. But I think
when you say 3, do you mean if players go or in addition to what we have right now?
No, because Salah's going to go. Gakpo's likely to go. Chiesa's likely to go. Right?
I mean, I don't know if all 3 of them go.
I do.
Okay.
I'd be surprised.
I mean, if all 3 of them go, yes, we need 3 in.
You know, you need 3 in. And then you always have, you've got Hugo, you've got Isak, you're bringing 3 in.
You've got Dan's coming back.
Yeah, you've got Dan's coming back. You've got
Rio.
You've got Rio there, and hopefully you look to extend. What's his name?
Oh, give me a description.
Always on the bench, hardly ever comes on.
Leone.
He's another one who can play as a 10.
Okay.
So my fear is about their age, but not their quality. Their quality is unbelievable. It's just what would scare me is their age. And with young players, they can be inconsistent. But when they're on it, they're fantastic. And the thing is, if you're looking to grow,
trust them.
Well, I don't really give a fuck about Arne Slot at the minute because
I know. I'm just
saying he's.
That I think he'll be there.
He's a head coach. He's the head coach. He's not the manager. He's the head coach. It's Richard Hughes' job to give him a squad of players. It's up to him how he uses them.
I mean, he's not wrong in what he's saying about other players at 17 getting minutes. I will say, rogue shout before we go, because we only have a few minutes before we go. The one player at 17 that has gotten minutes or did get minutes last year that we haven't talked about is Matheus Mane from Wolves, who is currently 18 years old. He got over 1,000 minutes for Wolves at 17, at the same age as Rio. So that was last season when he kind of was the breakout player. He was in their under 18s. He's another player we've been linked to tentatively. He would be sort of like your bargain option for your winger.
There's an argument to, if you're going to sign him, but leave him at Wolves for a year.
In the championship.
Sign him, leave him at Wolves for a year. Let him develop in the championship. And then you take him the year after. But it would depend on what Cody Gakpo is doing. If Gakpo stays, I wouldn't mind signing a Matheus Nunes or Matheus Mane because he does look like a quality young player. But I wouldn't mind seeing him develop at Wolves for another year. It wouldn't be the worst idea to let him gain confidence in the championship. Go and bang goals there. Help Wolves get back up. And then you have a 19-year-old next year coming in full of confidence.
Okay. I mean, Real Talk in the chat says he looks like he's playing too many minutes now. And that's the other flip side of the coin, is that, he's up past that 1,000 minute mark again this year. So at 18 years old, he's getting a ton of minutes in his legs. Look, guys, I think that sort of covers all of the positions. Is there anyone, Gizmo, that we have missed out on that you want to give as like a final shout out before we go, that you would love to see Liverpool sign, or, like a dream signing, for example? Just sort of your final words for tonight.
I mentioned Barella earlier, and I'd love to see Bone. I do believe Yared Bone would be a good addition down. He definitely doesn't live. He seems to be West Ham true and true. So he'd be the type of player who will want to stay and get them back up. But I would like to see Bone. I think he's a very, very clever player. And he has that pace that I do think we need.
He's 29.
I have no problem with that.
I really like him. I think the thing with that is, again, if you wanted to have sort of that elder statesman in the front line that, especially if you were to bring in someone like a Diamande or a Mane, if Mo Salah was to leave and you had that balance between seniority and youth, that could work really well. So it's definitely something to consider, especially if he does go down. I'm not 100% sure he does stay with them if they do go down. I think that there'll be a queue probably quite long for his services. I think that he's too good for the Championship, personally. Kev, I'm going to give you the final word for tonight. Are there any players that we didn't talk about that you want to mention, or, just a dream signing?
Look, I just want us to stay away from the nonsense, Madrid, swapping Rodrigo for Szoboszlai, all that kind of fucking... all that stupidity.
I think that would be daylight robbery from Madrid's perspective.
Yeah, dream signing, absolute dream signing, Valverde. I think he's a fucking superstar. But reality is he's staying at Madrid. Madrid will never sell him. But yeah, no, I don't mind us if we go in with looking at youth players, younger players, build something for the next 5 years and let a team grow naturally together. There's youth and experience within that as well. And you have to be thinking long term. With the kind of fees that are going around for players these days, you almost have to get a few of them before they become the players that they potentially can be. So I don't like the idea of having to pay Bournemouth for Crystal Palace 70, 80 million to get a player out of there before.
Wolves got 40 million for your man, that striker.
For Stren Larson, that was another daylight robbery. Another daylight robbery.
But that tells you where the state of the league is at the minute for transfer fees, and it can't carry on. It can't go on for forever and a day.
No, I mean there was an article today. It was talking about sort of the Netflix of the Premier League being potentially trialed in Singapore next year. But the end of the article from the Times was about sort of the fragility of the football league at this point in time, and about how many clubs can't keep up with these kind of transfer fees and things like that. So maybe that's something we'll touch upon tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be back on YouTube with a preview for this weekend. And then on Patreon, which our link is right there for, we're going to have our random show. Emmett and Gav and I will be back for that tomorrow at, I believe, 10 o'clock. So the preview show will be at 9 o'clock on YouTube, and then the random show will be at 10. If you have listened to any of the random shows with Emmett and Gav recently, they have gotten progressively more and more crazy and more enjoyable in my perspective. They are hilarious. So please come and join us there if you choose. It's about it's about the price of a cup of coffee to join our Patreon, and you get basically double the amount of shows every single month. So if we get 4 or 5 shows here on YouTube, you get 4 or 5 shows over there. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I have to pop off to work. I want to say thank you to Kev, and I want to say thank you to Gizmo. Thank you for being kind of live on camera for the first time. Really appreciate it. Really glad that we got your internet working and we're able to kind of see and hear you. And yeah,
I'm going to ring Virgin Media tomorrow and tell them that
it'll be grand. This actually, it held up way better than I thought it was going to. So yes. Thank you guys so much. Thank you everyone in the chat. Thank you for your suggestions. We will be kind of going through these in more detail as we go forward. I know that there's a lot of really good suggestions, so I'm going to take notes from the chat. I've seen Kravitskelia mentioned in there, a couple of others. So we'll come back to this in a couple of weeks. But for now, let's just call it a night, and we will be back tomorrow. Like I said, 9 o'clock, then 10 o'clock. Kev, you have the controls. Do you mind taking us out of here?
No problem. Good night, all.
Right. Thank you.